my name is Samantha Jayne, known as the Angel here on the show. I am psychic medium, psychic healer.
And I am Paul Devlin, and I, pure and simple, am the exorcist. Right, opposite me today is Sammy. I met Sammy about a year ago. Was called to her property where she was experiencing some issues, and she's very kindly come in to talk us through that experience.
So, welcome to the show, Sammy. Do you want to share with us what you were experiencing?
Even now I kind of find it hard to remember it because I think on some level I have sort of blocked it out. But from what I can remember at the beginning, the main feeling for me was just this feeling of being watched, like all the time. Even when you know that you've made the conscious decision to be on your own, so whether that's to go to the toilet or to have a shower or you just need an evening to yourself, I just always felt like I was never completely alone. But when it got bad and when I reached out for help was after I just no longer felt really safe in the house, and I didn't really feel like I could sleep either. So when I would wake up the next morning, I'd say, did anyone else hear someone moving furniture around at night? And they'd be like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I can hear it all night. I just hear it was like someone was rearranging their bedroom above me at 3 in the morning. The night that scared me the most, and the night that I reached out to Paul and Sam for help, was the night after I basically didn't sleep at all. And it was because of the knocking on my bedroom door. And at this point, it was a few months into the tenancy, but not all the tenants had moved in. There was only a couple of us there. And I knew that the other girl was asleep. And there was just this repeated pattern of knocks on my bedroom door. And the first time I heard it, I sat like bolt upright. And I was like, I was asking if, who was it? And they repeated the knocks again, and it just started getting louder. And I didn't know what to do. I was so scared. I was literally sat there like breathing really fast. I was like, how do I make this stop? I remember being on the phone to Paul, crying and just being so overexhausted because I just had no rest whatsoever. And I just knew that I needed some help for something I didn't really understand.
And was it just you experiencing that, or were your housemates experiencing it?
We were all experiencing it at different times. I think we've all had different individual experiences. But yeah, we had all experienced something. And I think that was when I realised it wasn't just me and my anxiety, that this was bigger than just me, basically.
I think the important thing here is that when I first spoke to Sammy, it was, even though it was on the phone, it was chaos.
Right.
Yeah, it was chaos in the background. You could hear her housemates panicking as well, and you could really get that sense of, we're at the end of our tether, and you guys, I think, definitely were.
Did you think you were going mad?
Yeah, for ages. And the main reason I didn't ask for help or tell anyone about it was because I was so terrified that people were just going to tell me I was being stupid and that I was being crazy, and that, I have that kind of judgment voice in my head anyway, because I can be an anxious person. But even when I tried to tell my friends, I was like, there's something wrong with my house, they just looked at me like, you're just being silly. I remember that one of the girls would be scared to walk down the hallway, and I noticed it because my bedroom was next to hers, and she kind of just said, she was like, I don't like the feeling of this room, and I was like, I don't like it either. And as soon as we started having those small conversations between ourselves, that's when we realised that we were all experiencing things, we just weren't talking about it with each other, because we all thought that we were losing our minds.
When I turned up, the energy in this property, it just sucked the life out of you before you went in. Even when you walked up the path, I parked across the road, and you could see it in the house. But the relief when somebody comes, and they live in it. It's your job, but they're living it.
Yeah.
When I first got there, everybody came in the front room and we had a chat. One thing I remember is the banging and the crashing going on, and everybody was in the front room. And this, this spirit was, in a sense, it was kicking off. It was like, how dare you call somebody, this is my house.
Yes.
And that sense of fear to kind of drive you out, you've already reached out for help, and now we want to drive you out of the house before it gets, this is like the last ditch attempt of this thing to win.
Yeah.
And as you've experienced on many occasions before, their intimidation is a level that you can only understand if you've experienced it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I do remember the property. It was what I call multi-layered, lots of layers of different things going on. He was what we call a peeper. So what he was doing was that why he was more active at night was he liked to watch the girls sleep.
Yeah.
Spiritually, as a medium who clears property, fabulous project.
Yeah.
Not so nice to live it though.
Let's be honest, it was like let's see if you know what you're doing moment, really and truthfully.
I remember one of the rooms, and I think it was the attic, and the first time we went there, we sat in the attic, and you may as well have turned the light out, because the whole thing went black. It just went totally black, and I've experienced it only a few times before, and probably one time since, but it gives you the understanding of the power of what this thing had behind it. It wasn't just a spiritual. It wasn't just a man that used to be in this world. There were things behind it manipulating him.
Yeah.
And that's where obviously we worked so well together.
Yeah.
To clear what we cleared. I think we started in the most active room. Everybody followed me around, and I think the bathroom was one of the things that they were most scared of, because obviously you're most vulnerable.
Yeah.
When you're in the bathroom, and it knew that. The intelligence of this entity was very, very high, and even for somebody who's done a lot of spirit rescues and gone to a lot of properties, I felt it. I really felt it. And as we sort of went through the house, going through different rooms, each person will come out with a story in their bedroom they probably hadn't told anybody else before. And by the time we got to the top, I was like, okay.
Scary.
4 hours later.
The attic was.
Didn't go up that spirally staircase at the top of the house.
Yeah.
You didn't like it up there either.
And you had a basement as well, didn't you? There was a bedroom in the basement. And I remember going in the basement, and I think there was a guy there, one of the girls' boyfriends, I think, said, I can feel it, it's icy cold in here. And I remember getting my little mobile phone out, just hitting the record button. I went, just watch this. And it was just like an all show.
I've never seen anything like that.
I was like, there you go, they're really stressed.
Yeah.
And then you can't always clear a property in one go. The amount of things that were going on, I knew at that point, I was like, I think I need some help here. And that's when I brought you in.
Ta-da!
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably one of the things that sticks in my mind is that when I looked at the amount of work that needed to do in that property, I was like, this is going to take some time to do, but you have to go through the process. You have to go through the layers. You have to go through the rooms. You measure the different energies, and that there's something pushing those energies down. So it's not the true reading, and it's trying to get behind that. And I knew that at that point, as I said before, to call you in. Because we work on, obviously, Angel the Exorcist, we work on different levels.
Yeah.
But I knew there were multiple levels here, from different eras.
Yeah.
On different dimensions, and they were all linked. They all knew. They all were aware of each other, but they possibly couldn't communicate, and they were all trying to dominate each other.
Yeah.
And that. To be in a house where you've never experienced anything like that before is, as you can see, to just
I
even
just
talk about
remember
it.
the house feeling loud, which is a weird way to explain it.
No, I understand.
But it just felt really overcrowded
Yeah.
in a way that didn't really make sense for a student place, but yeah. And obviously occasionally hearing whistling around the house, and just when you know no one else is in and you're just thinking, I'm going to choose to ignore that for now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's...
Mm. Well, the layers that I worked with, the way that we worked together was that I needed to remove the, let's call it human spirit, in order to then create the space for Paul to deal with the dark, the demonic that was behind it all. So what I had to, and do you remember that there was the energetic remains of a guy in the cupboard under the stairs?
Yes,
do you
yes,
remember
yes,
that
I
as
do.
well? There was that. So basically what I had to do, it's quite interesting, I know I keep saying that, but I love what I do. But I had to get rid of the woman, we'll call her the madame, but the woman that ran the boarding house, because if you think all the rest of them were young girls, these were young girls taken out of workhouses. So I had to they were terrified of the madame. So there was no way they were going to listen to the weirdo in the physical body who was telling them to leave, because she hadn't given them permission to go. They were so scared of her. So I had to remove her first, which, you know, I am a redhead, she met a match, yeah. So
Oh, she did.
and this mouth can be very colourful. Sometimes you have to do that. It's so spiritual. A lot of language there. So I had to remove her, then remove the working girls, let's call it that, remove her son, because it was her son dragging the leg, if I remember correct, this case. Remove her son as well. And then, because the other human in this equation was the money man, who I think ran one of the factories, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, as I call them, a factory. And so then we had to capture him literally, because he was running riot, let's say. And obviously he was building his energy because he was not happy with me and what we were doing. So what I remember on this occasion was we had to use trickery. So I invited him in, made him feel powerful, and let him take my body. This is what we were doing while you were all in the living room, having a large glass or something.
Yes.
Well, so that Paul could then engage with the arrogance of this man. I flirt with him and do spiritual things to bring him in and allow him the use of my body, which would make him feel so masterful. Can you imagine it? Like a pigeon-chested male of back in the day. For you to then have a conversation, because I did do voice, if I remember right, as well, he spoke, to have a conversation. And so it was, it's hard to explain, even we are multifaceted in what we do. So while all of that's going on, I mean, I'm all right, I'm sat at the beach. Paul then has to do all the work. And then Paul removed him from me and cleared him from me. And then we had to go up into, was it the attic where the portal gateway was to it all? That's why you didn't want to go in that attic, honey. But then Paul to do the other layers. So it's a lot going on.
A lot of work, but I think over time, you know, that's just built up. It's just got worse and worse and worse and worse.
Years they've been there.
And unfortunately, you guys happened to be there when it came into its own.
Yeah.
When its ego became too big, and that's what you'll often find with spirit. The negative side of spirit, they have massive egos. And a lot of the time, that's where you can sort of, that's where your niche is, because he was like, oh, you know, I can conquer this woman. It was very much like that.
You say stuff like
and just go. He went to Sam, and he was like, yeah. And I was like, right, okay, because his ego was so big. His ego was so big, and at that point, by the time we realised what was going on, it was too late.
Yeah.
But fascinating for us. fascinating thing to go through, and a learning experience for us as well, because we learn from everyone we do.
Yeah, always.
And I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah,
You know.
me too. I'm so thankful to you guys though, because the one thing I loved about having you there, obviously it was a horrible time for me and my housemates, but you just kept me calm. And because my anxiety just went absolutely mental in that house, and I just could not fathom what was going on, I felt like I was losing my mind for such a long time. And you just looked at me, and I just knew that you knew I wasn't crazy. And that was like, that was the best feeling for me at that point, just to have someone listen and not treat you like you're stupid.
No, because what you have to understand is this is a normal conversation for us.
Yeah.
We do this in most reputable coffee shops across Wiltshire on a regular
The ones that let us
basis.
in now.
The ones where we're allowed. Of course, that's when they reopen, just for the record. But yeah, I don't think there's I probably shouldn't tempt fate, but I don't think there's anything we've not seen, heard, walked through. So
No.
yeah.
So Sammy, did you, after we'd been to the property, did you research it at all?
I remember that when we went to the library, as we walked into the door, obviously we had to kind of explain why we were there. The guy who was working there asked us what we were looking for. And when we told him what we were looking for, he didn't look at us like he was shocked. And he basically said that Cheltenham was quite a well-known place for this kind of thing. And that if there was anyone I needed help with, that he could put me in contact with someone. But he just really confirmed in that moment that this is an area that people are aware of, and people do talk about it,
Right.
even when they don't know like what it is or what they're doing, that people clearly are curious and want to find out who was where they're living, basically.
After those events, we went and researched it, didn't we?
Yeah. I think it was in the car on the way back. Good old
Well,
Google.
I was driving.
Google again.
You were researching.
As you do, and I was like, oh my god. And weird thing is, I never actually do that, but I felt drawn to, and I instantly put in, I don't know, the street name or something, and the photo came back of basically all the residents that I'd just been dealing with. I was like, oh my god.
It's also useful because it gives you closure,
Yeah,
or as we like to say, freedom.
Yeah. So would you say that you're a believer now?
yes. Not a moment's hesitation.
No. And you would argue anyone down that isn't, in a way, I suppose, off the back of it, in terms of, no, I've lived through this.
Yeah.
And what about prior to that experience? Did you believe in the paranormal before that time?
I think it's something I've always been fascinated by, in the sense that I couldn't really understand it. And I'd always been kind of open to the idea of it, but it wasn't until I'd lived that experience that it confirmed for me, this is real. And it's so important to raise awareness of it, because at the time, I didn't know where to go, I didn't know who to speak to. You know, when you're at school and someone's bullying you at school, you go to the teacher. If someone's bullying you at work, you go to the boss. But what do you do if it's a spirit? Like, who do you speak to?
The angel and the exorcist.
Yeah, exactly. But it was...
Are you going to
call? Yeah.
Once the clearance had been done, how did you guys adjust back to life in that house?
I think it took a while for us to kind of stop talking about it. I remember as a house we made an effort not to talk about it, basically. We didn't want to give it any power, so we were like, no, we're going to make more of an effort to be in the house, because I remember you said that we shouldn't let it drive us out. So we made an effort to be there.
Yeah.
But we just tried to laugh more, tried to do more things as a house together. I think part of the reason we were so separate was we just did our own thing. Like, we were all kind of in our rooms at our own times. We all studied different courses, so we were all in and out of the house at different times. So we just made more effort to do things together.
And that type of thing is good, because it raises energy. You know, because in some circumstances, if people talk about it, once you've been to these properties, and Sam will know this, it can call them back. You know, and I always say to people, it's done, you know, enjoy yourself, try not to talk about it.
Yeah, don't power it back up.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming in and sharing your story. I know it's taken a lot of guts to come in and share it because of the trauma that was linked to it. But thank you very much for coming in, Sammy.
It's okay. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I hope you have enjoyed this show. As always, remember to hit like, subscribe and ring that bell so you know when the next episode is launched.